Hello and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, hi, I'm Cassidy. If it's not, thanks for always tuning into my videos. Today's video is what I'm calling a summer wrap-up fall reset video. I have been bad and I have not been doing wrap-ups on my channel. I just, for some reason, can't bring myself to film them, and I think that shows when I do film them. So I'm constantly trying to play with new ideas to get them onto my channel because I do like the idea of being able to see every single month what I did, or like see what my favorite books were, things like that. So that's what brought this video along, because I didn't want to sit here and talk about like 40 books. So instead, what I'm going to be doing in this video is discussing my favorite books of the summer, my least favorite books of the summer, some of my favorite content of the summer, maybe some statistics and some content that I thought did better than I thought it was going to. Just talk about some stuff like that, as well as then we will be resetting for fall, which means we are going to reset my TBR cart for the fall seasons. We're going to go over maybe a little bit of fall plans. I might show you some of the fall gear that I need to unpack from underneath my bed, things like that. And I hope you enjoy this style of video. We'll see if I enjoy it. I am excited to see what comes out of it. For the purpose of this video, I'm calling the summer months June, July, and August. In these 3 months, I have read 30 books. That is quite a bit, which also is a combined number of pages for 13,128 pages. That's a lot of pages. I've had 5 5-stars, which I think is pretty good for myself, 7 4-stars, 11 3-stars, 7 2-stars, which is a stat I don't like. But I have had 0 1-stars in the last 3 months, so I call that also a good day. And then over the last 3 months, I've read 4 new releases, 23 backlist books, and 3 releases from last year. I have also completed 2 series in the last couple months, and that's a stat that I always want to see grow, but I'm very happy with still. Unsurprisingly, my most read genre was fantasy. Like, I only read fantasy pretty much. I read 1, 2 thrillers. The rest were like fantasy romance, fantasy, and indie fantasy, which are all subcategories of fantasy, but I calculate I show them differently. So I read 14 books that I call traditional published fantasy, 10 fantasy romance books, and 4 indie fantasy books. Now, let's talk some of my favorite books over the last couple months. It's really easy, in my opinion, to figure out what my favorite book was. I gave it 5 stars. I really had such a fun time with it. Can you guess it? Comment down below if you think that you can guess my favorite book of the last 3 months. And for me, it was The Will of the Many by James Islington. I really enjoyed this story. I was not expecting to, due to the fact that I didn't like the Lycanius trilogy that much, but like this just spoke to me on so many levels. It felt like a more polished writing. Really just enjoyed the magic system and our main character. In this, we're following our main character, who was a prince of a nation, and when the hierarchy, which is the ruling big nation of this world, it came and colonized this small nation, they killed off the entire royal line except for our main character, who managed to escape. Then he becomes an orphan within the hierarchy, and he doesn't want anyone to know who he is. But when one day he is adopted by a high up person of the hierarchy and sent to one of the more prestigious schools in the realm, he is sent there as a spy to try and figure out what happened, and that's pretty much all we know going into it. And I really just enjoyed the wild ride that I think that this book was. It definitely took some twists and turns, but I really liked our main character. I found him really engaging and thoughtful, and he noticed everything, and it felt very real for him to like be asking questions a lot, just because he was a very inquisitive character. I also really liked the magic in this, which is like a pyramid. Essentially, in this world, we have what is called seeding, and one person can seed to another person and like kind of like give their magic or their energy, and you can have multiple people seeding to you, and what happens is you are given like a stat in the world, depending on who you are, is who you'll seed to. Some people will have like 5 people seeding to them that have no one seeding to them, but then you go up a level, and this person that has 5 people then seeding to them then also seeds to someone else, and so that person now kind of has like 6 people seeding to them just in like one branch off, not to mention anyone else who's seeding to them, and I thought that that was like really interesting. We also have a main character who does not and cannot use the magic magic system, which I thought was going to be a struggle for me, and in order to like learn the magic and love the magic, because I'm such a world building and magic driven reader. However, I loved that he couldn't use it, and I thought it was such an interesting take in a fantasy setting. So yeah, I really enjoyed The Will of the Many. I want more people to read it and pick it up. I definitely think I'll be seeing this on my top 10 of the year, and I cannot wait for book 2. The other like main favorite of mine for the summer would have been the Air Awakens series by Elise Kova. Now, I didn't give book 1, which is what I'm holding up, 5 stars. Books 2, 3, 4, and 5, that's where most of my 5 stars come from. I adored this series. This is a YA fantasy, which I think a lot of people label as fantasy romance, but I definitely think it more leans towards YA fantasy. I 100% enjoyed my time with these characters. It was just an easy, bingeable read. Don't go into it expecting too much. Like, it's not my typical, like, epic fantasy, unique magic, all this stuff. This is more a following of tropes that we are familiar with and love, and I think it was done really well. I do think that there are unique elements to this story, but it's just like not what I'm loving it for. I think I loved it for the familiarity of these YA tropes and just the fun I could have with these characters and how much I could love them and adore them and root for them, even though like it's a romance. So yeah, I like really felt a lot of emotions when reading this. I enjoyed the story we went on. I enjoyed the world building, the magic system. In this, we're following a library apprentice who ends up saving the prince somehow, and then we realize she has magic. And this prince is called the Dark Prince. He is in this world, although magic is necessary, it is also kind of like looked down upon, and you're kind of seen as evil when you have magic. And our prince does have magic, and he's going to be the next king, so people kind of like fear him, but also he's saving the world time and time again with his magic. Isn't it funny how like fear and power kind of go hand in hand at times? We follow these two characters as they kind of grow off each other, because she is something that has never been seen before in like thousands of years, and so obviously like the prince takes an interest in her, and there's just a lot of interesting emotions that happen in this, in my opinion, and like a lot of just like fun moments that I really loved. So definitely check this out. I feel like I did not do a good job explaining it, but I'm trying to let you go into like very open with like not a lot of expectations, because I just think it's a fun ride, and I really do recommend this series if you're looking for something just super fun and easy to pick up. All 5 of the books are really short, and they have the worst cliffhangers, so they're so bingeable because like you just have to know what's happening next. But I really did enjoy this series. I think my 2 other like really big tops of the last couple months are not 5-star reads for me, but I really enjoyed Combat Codes by Alexander Darwin. I was shocked how much I enjoyed this. I was expecting to not enjoy it as much due to the fact that I heard that it was like low on the fantasy and a lot of battles and all of that, but I really got sucked up into the story at about 50%, and I really enjoyed my time with it, and I'm really interested to see what happens in book 2. In this, we're following 2 characters. We're following a retired Griever Knight. In this world, they fight their battles with essentially like boxing matches or like fighting matches. So if they're fighting over a territory, they pick their best knights and they go against each other, and whoever wins that fight wins the territory, which I thought was really interesting. Honestly, if you think about it, it makes way more sense than going to war. Like, we're losing one person instead of like millions, and like the trauma that comes from war, and like no, like neither is good, but honestly, it made me think a lot into like why that this could be better than war in times. You know, sidetracked. Our main character has retired, and during his time, being a knight was like full of honor, and there was something called the Combat Codes. We've definitely seen a lot of greed come to play within this structure. It is our retired Griever's knight's purpose to find a new knight, a new recruit, and he stumbles across our other character who somehow seems to know the codes and fights better than everyone else, and he ends up picking him to then go to this academy and train to be another Griever knight. This book has a little bit of mystery. I enjoyed it, as well as like the small magic system. It is definitely light on the fantasy. However, I do think that there's just a little bit of magic in it, and I enjoyed that magic. Essentially, their fighting pits attract these like spirits that then have like a different ability on the people. Like sometimes you're in a fighting ring that attracts like the white spirits that give you like confidence. Sometimes you'll attract the like red spirits that make you more perceptible to the crowd. Things like that. And I thought that that was like really interesting. I kind of liked the blend of science and fantasy in this. I felt like this was really unique. I cannot wait for book 2. I really enjoyed this one. And then another one I really enjoyed was Pawn's Gambit by Rob J. Hayes. If you watched my Spiffbo video, you know that I put this up as a Senlin safety net for Spiffbo. I read Master of the Void in September, so it cannot count in this video, just so everyone knows. But I did read Pawn's Gambit in August, so that's why it's in here. I really enjoyed my time with this. This follows a world where once a century the gods hold a contest to then overthrow their current god and have a new god become like god of heaven, like the ruler of heaven. And to do so, of course, they don't fight themselves. Instead, they find a human champion to then fight this contest for them. So that's what we're following. We're following a main character who has been chosen to then compete in this contest for a god, and we're watching her compete. The contest is kind of like hide and go seek and capture the flag mixed together, and I thought it was really interesting. I liked seeing the little contests that our character went on to like find the little items they had to find throughout it. I thought it was fun to see like a smarter character, a character that didn't just like rely on like brute strength. I think Rob J. Hayes is an incredible writer. He wrote Along the Razor's Edge, which I read earlier this year, and I absolutely adore that series. I think that he is very unique with his world building and his style of writing, and I continually love everything that he puts out. This is a series of companion novels set within the Mortal Techniques world. I definitely will be continuing on to the other books in that series. Series is light, like they are standalones, and so this is technically the second out of the three, and I need to go back and read the first, which is Never Die. I also did reread Red Sister in these last couple months, but this was a reread for me, so it was easily like a high 5-star that I loved. I'm rereading it for Backlist Book Club, and very excited about this reread. I think Mark Lawrence is incredible, and if you haven't checked out the series, you definitely will, but I'm not going to speak about it just because I talk about this all the time on my channel, and I feel like this isn't really a high of the month since I knew it was going to be a favorite read of mine since it was a reread. I did also really love Blood Mercy. I want to continue in this series. I really love the new trend happening in fantasy romance books where it's like, or just fantasy in general, where we have vampires but set in a fantasy world. So it's not urban, it's not our world, it's just like this new idea of vampires, and I think it makes them more unique than what we see on Earth, and I really, really love that. This is a slow burn romance with a cinnamon roll character, and I really, really, really adored my time with it. Now to talk about some of my least favorite reads or more disappointing reads of the month. The first one is probably Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. I went into this expecting a 5-star prediction. I typically love Sanderson's writing. There's not a lot of his books that I haven't given 5 stars to, so I thought this was going to be an easy 5-star for me. However, I was really just bored in this book, and I did not like love my experience with it. I felt like I wanted to learn more about the magic system. I think having this not be my first Sanderson, I think if this was your first Sanderson, you would enjoy it more. I expected a more logical and hard magic system and having like really strict rules about the magic system, because that's what Sanderson is known for in my opinion, and that's what I came to expect from his stories. And so that really made me struggle because like I wanted to know more about the rules, and that's like something, one of the reasons I pick Sanderson up is for his hard magic systems. And I had been sold that this was like a sibling book. However, the siblings talk like 2 times in it, so I don't think that really counts. And I just like really didn't love my time with this book. However, I know a lot of people who do love it, but it is definitely now my least favorite Sanderson, and I definitely will be unhauling my copy of this or sending it to my sister, who just like thinks it's really pretty. Daughter of No Worlds was one of my most disappointing reads of the entire year, I think. I really, really loved The Serpent and the Wings of Night, and so I picked up this series expecting to love it, and I gave this a 2-star. I gave the second book a 2-star. I'm currently reading the third book and hoping for more than a 2-star. However, I just feel like this is not a fantasy romance, and the romance in it really took away from what it could be, because there is an epic fantasy plot within this, and we follow 2 characters who are falling in love, so I get why it's called a fantasy romance, and it's by Carissa Broadbent. I really did not care about these characters in any way. I did not buy their romance. I did not like their relationship, which honestly just made me struggle with the entire series, because I didn't care about the fact that they were pining over each other at all times, because I didn't like them together. I didn't think that they were good together. I didn't enjoy their moments together, which is just a problem that I had. And if you enjoy the 2 characters, you will love the entire series. But if you don't enjoy the 2 characters, I don't think you will. In this, we follow Tasana, who was a slave, and in order to get out of slavery, she does something that she shouldn't do. Now she has to escape and join the Order, as they are the only thing powerful enough to keep her from the fate that now lies for her back at home. But she makes it a goal to go back and save all the other slaves at some point, and she ends up making deals with people that she probably shouldn't have. that's all I'm going to say about this. I did not love this book. Probably another big disappointment for me, these are definitely not the worst books I've read all year, but they disappointed me quite a bit, is the second and third books in the Nevernight Chronicles. I wanted to love this series. Again, I thought it was going to be a 5-star prediction, especially after reading Nevernight. However, I found the story really repetitive and was really YA in a way that I didn't want, and the humor in it didn't always work for me, and I think that that just really affected my enjoyment. I found them very predictable. I predicted how the series was essentially going to end within the first like 50 pages of book 1, which apparently is not a thing normal people do. From what I've seen, like I have a superpower that I really am proud of, but at the same time really made me not love this series. I still enjoyed it. I still had an overall good time with it. I gave the overall series a 3-star. I will be recommending them. I just like was more disappointed that I didn't love these quite as much. Nevernight follows our main character, Mia, who, after seeing her entire family murdered, she goes on a quest for revenge, and then she ends up joining a school for assassins and becoming one of the most dangerous assassins the world has ever known. Both the thrillers I read in the last couple months were some of my least favorites too, but I'm slowly realizing I'm really not a thriller girl. Give me the horrors over the thrillers any day. I read both The Only One Left by Riley Sager and The Last Word by Taylor Adams. Both of these authors have written some of my favorite thrillers. No Exit and The Last Time We Lied are thrillers I really loved. So I obviously wanted to love their newest books. The Last Word I just felt was too over the top and felt like a giant joke to me, but I think a lot of people loved how over the top it is, and I'm just much more of a logical driven reader, so I want things to really make sense in my brain, and a lot of this felt just like so unbelievable to me that I didn't love it. And The Only One Left is actually just a type of story I've learned I do not like that much. Anytime I've read this like slow murder mystery set in like a gothic house style story, I've just found it very slow and boring, so I've read like 4 of them and I haven't liked any of them. This is definitely like an archetype or plot device that I think I will be avoiding, where like there's someone sick in the house and someone goes to take over them, but like they're hearing like noises and things aren't all that it seems, and there's definitely like a mystery behind them. Are they sick? Are they not sick? Type style. Okay, let's talk about some of my favorite content from the month now. I had actually slowed down the last 3 months in my content schedule. I was trying to prioritize just making content I really loved and not getting content out just because I needed a video out. We were seeing me upload probably about every 4 days instead of like every 2 days, which is still a lot of content. I know I'm a crazy person, but I am trying to do this as a job, and that requires uploading quite a bit. Honestly, I'm proud of like all of the content I made, so this is going to be really hard. I think one of my favorite videos I made was easily reading booktuber recommendations, the like since you liked this, read this book. In June I had posted episode 2. This was a series I had started prior, but episode 2, I feel like this vlog taught me a lot. I feel like my vlog style really came together in episode 2, and it sounds crazy because I've been vlogging for I don't know how long now, but I feel like it took me these like 2 years of vlogging and making YouTube to finally find a style that I really liked and to have a little bit of a balance between book stuff and my life stuff. And like I don't do a lot of life stuff, so mostly it's like cooking and like Starbucks runs and things like that, but that is what I do, and I think I've kind of found like a good balance in how I wanted to vlog and make content, and I think that that was one of the videos that really showed me how I wanted to do it, so I'm like really proud of that video. And then I'm also really proud of the Barbie video. This is one of those pieces that did way better than I expected to. When I came up with this concept, it was because I watch a Sims creator who does like a spinning wheel and did one for Barbie, and she created like rooms based off different Barbie movies, and I was watching that and was like, hey, I think Barbie could pick my TBR that way. That would be like really cool. And so I did that, but I was like, no one's gonna watch this. Like this is such a niche video, but yes, Barbie was coming out, and so I was like, oh, there's like hype around it, but like is anyone going to care about it? And I wasn't expecting it to do so good because it was so random. Like literally Barbie picking my TBR based off movies was so random, but I had so much fun doing that video. I embraced the Barbie. I watched old Barbie movies. Like that is a video that I like was really proud of, and I'm really glad it did really well. It like did better than I ever expected. Like I thought it was not going to do well at all. And I of course am proud of my fantasy school reading vlog. I dropped everything to do that, and I think that it turned out really well. I had another video plan made and I was supposed to be working on that, but I was like kind of slumping hard because of that, and I was like, well, let's just do something that like I'm happy about. And I really have been trying to like realize that that's what I need to be doing, because I think it shows then in the content I'm making, because I'm proud of the content I'm making, because I was like happy doing it versus like doing it just to make content, if that makes sense. And I think the Magical Fantasy School reading vlog does show that. I enjoyed all of those books. Another video that overperformed, which I am proud of, but like I was just shocked that it overperformed, was the I Can't Stop Reading Until I Find a 5-Star Fantasy Romance edition. I didn't expect it to do so good because I'm not typically a fantasy romance booktuber. Yes, I do read fantasy romance. I do love fantasy romance, but I feel like when you come to my channel, it's not for fantasy romance. So I didn't expect it to do as good as it did, but it really did do quite well. And there is another edition of this style of video coming for spooky season. I think that you can guess what it'll be. And I am wondering if that one will do well, like if it's just like the clickbait of that style of video that does well, or if I really just like lucked out and people were like, oh, I really like your fantasy romance thoughts. I don't really have any least favorite content. I feel like that would be kind of sad. Actually, the next dragon book video is probably my least favorite. I am debating getting rid of that series for next year. I don't love it as much because I'm often reading books that I don't love. When I'm reading books that like I'm really excited for, it works, like Fireborn or Fourth Wing. But like, for example, in the more recent edition of that video series, all 3 of those were books that I wasn't very excited about anymore, and I think it definitely shows within that video. So I'm unsure. I do love doing them, and I love reading dragon books and finding the ones I'm going to adore, so I might continue, but like I'm unsure about it. It still performs quite well. Obviously, a video that did not perform very well on my channel was reading the Nevernight series for the first time spoiler series vlog. I did not expect this video to do well because it was a spoiler series vlog, and I had some controversial opinions in it, but I did enjoy my time doing it, but it definitely did not perform well. When I look at like my statistics, the best performing videos, other than like TBRs and book hauls, because those always do good, are my like I Can't Stop Reading Until I Find 5 Stars reading booktuber recommendations. Actually, my dystopian books you should read sci-fi recommendation from back in March is really performing. Also, Barbie Picks My TBR is doing really good. And actually my Read With Me and Annotate a Book With Me is doing decent. A little bit of content goals for the next month. I'm weekly reading vlogging, so I'm just hoping to put a little bit more lifestyle stuff in those. So that's kind of like my goal for the month for September. And then in October and November, I think my goal is just like do what I want to do and not feel pressured by like the YouTube content. And like I'm still gonna make content, but like prioritize the content I want to make and like reading the books I want to read around the content I want to make. So that is kind of like my little like content goal. I would like to do something really creative again as well, such as the Barbie vlog, because that was such a hit. I have some ideas for it, but nothing has been put into play yet. The last thing I want to do at my desk before we move on over to resetting my TBR cart is show you my last 3 Patreon bookmarks for June, July, and August. The June one was a Space Llama. This is a holographic foil. I absolutely loved and adored this one. It's kind of inspired by Battleathon last year because we had Team Llama, which was a sci-fi team, and most of my Discord was on Team Llama, and they really had a fun time with this one, and also it's just so cute. July was one inspired by Blood Mercy. It has a little heart on it with roses coming out of it. Roses are a big part of Blood Mercy, with 2 quotes from Blood Mercy. It says, "Those who wanted too much were dangerous. Those who appeared not to want anything were so much more so," on one side. And "who would not count himself fortunate to be your choice when all your choices are so carefully made," on the other. I think the purple of this is really stunning. It matches the second book perfectly. August was a Fireborn inspired bookmark that says, "And as with the gods, the world quaked to see them fireborn," on one side, and then on the other side it says, "On the backs of dragons we rise." I really, really loved this one. Rosaria Mundo was really sweet and reached out to me, and I sent her one, so that was really exciting, and I'm so excited about all 3 of these. I'm excited about the Patreon bookmarks coming for September, October, November, like some of my favorites. So there are still, I think, 10 spots left on that tier. If you're interested, it is my top tier that gets one of these every single month. November and September's are definitely my favorite that I've done so far. Okay, let's go back and let's stack up my TBR cart. Okay, we are just going to stand for this because I know I'm going to have to do a lot of moving around. You're not going to be able to see my TBR cart though. Let me see if I can figure that out. This could end up being a little sketchy, but here we go. These can leave, they're just for me packing Patreon envelopes, but I can find a different spot for them. So what I have been doing with this middle tier is the series that I said I was going to finish or start at the beginning of the year. So this is like kind of my reminders for that. And currently the bottom tier does have my hauled books, but the top one is supposed to have my TBR for the next coming months. The Ember Blade can leave. I am not currently reading this anymore. That video got pushed away. So I do know I still need to read Holy Sister in the next coming months, so I'm going to keep that up there. This guy can go down here for now. In September, I am weekly reading vlogging, and there will be a wheel every single week with a different style of book on it. So I feel like I'm going to prioritize more October and November reads on this because September will be a little bit more loose. So I'm going to pull some horror books that I kind of want to read in October, which my horror shelf is over here. I told you this was going to be sketchy. My horror shelf is over here, so let's go over there. I'm sorry if you can see nothing. Darcy and Darcy. Okay, I pulled Just Like Mother and The Last Housewife. These are both for a vlog I'm hoping to do in October, as well as two Darcy quotes I still haven't read. I tend to get to Darcy. I love Darcy so much. She's one of my favorite authors, so I will throw both of these on here, and then I'll just pick from them. These two are books with vampires that I'm hoping to get to in the next coming months as well, so I'm going to place them on there. These are two stories that I really want to get to in September, but I'm hoping the wheels will be in my favor for them, and if they aren't, I will prioritize them in probably November, so I will put these on the shelf. And then these two books both are the final books in series, so I want to prioritize them in the next coming months too, especially in November for something. So I will be putting these on the cart as well. I think that's it. Those are like my priority TBR for the next coming months. So there we have it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you made it all the way to the end of this video and you'd like to leave me an emoji just to say you were here, leave me... Is there a llama or a goat emoji? Leave me that. And then if you want to connect with me on other platforms, my Bookstagram, my Book Twitter, my Goodreads, and my Patreon are all linked in the description bar below. Have yourselves an absolutely remarkable day.